Hello, my lovely audience. I'm Mr. Peter, and I would like to tell you a story if you'd give me your time. Before we begin, I'd like to ask you to take a seat and get comfortable. Also remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's get into the story, shall we? The matte black envelope sat on Amara Bennett's kitchen table like a threat wrapped in elegance. She stared at it for several seconds before touching it, running her thumb across the gold crest embossed on the seal, the same crest she once designed when Bennett and Rowe was still her company. She opened the envelope quietly. Inside was a single card, thick and expensive. She read the message slowly, her heartbeat tightening with every word. "You are cordially invited to the annual Investors' Gala. It would be interesting to see you again. Kingston Rowe." Amara exhaled a soft, humorless breath. She knew exactly what this was. Kingston didn't want reconciliation. He didn't want closure. He wanted an audience. He wanted to humiliate her publicly, to remind investors she was nothing without him, that she had crumbled after the scandal he orchestrated. What he didn't know was that Amara hadn't crumbled at all. She turned toward the living room. "Zara, Eli?" she called. Two small heads instantly popped out from behind the couch. Zara narrowed her big brown eyes. Zara asked, "Mom, why do you look like someone annoyed you?" Eli stepped forward beside his sister. Eli said, "Is it the people who talk too much on the phone? 'Cause I can talk to them." Amara smiled, despite the tension building in her chest. She said softly, "No, baby, no one's in trouble. But someone thinks they can embarrass me." Zara placed her hands on her hips dramatically. Zara said, "They clearly don't know who you are." Eli nodded confidently. Eli muttered, "For real, people don't think sometimes." Amara knelt and pulled them both into her arms. She whispered, "We might be going somewhere soon. A big event." Zara's eyes sparkled. Zara asked, "A fancy one?" Eli gasped. Eli said, "With food." Amara laughed gently. She replied, "Yes, definitely with food." She stood again and looked at Kingston's signature. He wanted to see her defeated. Instead, he would see her rise. She typed a single message back, "I'll be there." Across the city, Kingston Rowe adjusted his cufflinks in the reflection of the floor-to-ceiling windows in his penthouse office. He admired his own image. Sharp suit, sharper jawline, dark skin glowing under the skyline lights. He looked like success, and he knew it. He also needed everyone else to know it. His assistant Lila stepped into the office quietly. Lila said, "Sir, the preparations for the gala are complete. All invitations have been sent." Kingston didn't look away from his reflection. He asked, "And the personal invitation?" Lila hesitated. She replied carefully, "Yes, the one for your ex-wife. It was delivered." Kingston finally turned, lips pulling into a smirk. He said, "Good, I want her right at the front. I want her to see what real success looks like." Lila's discomfort was visible. Lila asked quietly, "Mr. Rowe, why bring her back now, considering how everything ended, the company's reputation?" Kingston cut her off immediately. He said sharply, "The company's reputation will only improve. Investors remember her scandal. This will remind them who the real visionary is." Lila lowered her gaze. She murmured, "Some people still think the scandal wasn't—" Kingston's eyes snapped toward her. He said coldly, "We are not discussing that." Lila swallowed and stepped back. She said, "Yes, sir." When the door closed, Kingston's smirk faded slightly. He wouldn't admit it out loud, but Amara's disappearance had haunted him. He expected her to plead her case, to beg for forgiveness, to fight him, but she didn't. She walked away. She vanished. And for a man like Kingston, that was an unforgivable wound. Seeing her now would settle something inside him. Or so he believed. He had no idea what was coming. The crystal atrium buzzed with wealth and power on the night of the gala. Glittering chandeliers lit the entire hall, elegant guests moved like waves of color, and a live quartet played a soft orchestral version of a Burna Boy song. Kingston stood in the center of the room, soaking in admiration, shaking hands with senators, investors, celebrities. He was in his element. Lila approached again, but this time she looked almost afraid to speak. Lila said quietly, "Sir, she's here." Kingston straightened his tie. He replied smoothly, "Perfect. Let her see what she lost." But when he turned toward the entrance, his entire body froze. Silence fell over the hall, sweeping from guest to guest until even the musicians faltered. Every head turned toward the glass doors. Amara Bennett walked in. Her emerald gown hugged her curves perfectly. Her dark curls fell in soft waves. Her radiant skin caught every light in the room. She walked with elegance, confidence, and unbothered grace, but the room didn't freeze because of her beauty, although it could have. The room froze because she didn't walk in alone. She walked with 2 children, twins, around 10 years old, a boy and a girl, both with Amara's eyes, both with Kingston's face. Whispers exploded instantly. A woman near the bar whispered, "Hold on, those children look exactly like Kingston." A man said loudly, "No way, are those Bennett's kids?" Another voice added, "Twins, they're identical to him." Kingston's chest tightened painfully. Amara reached him slowly, deliberately, stopping only 2 feet away. She smiled politely. Amara said, "Hello, Kingston." Kingston swallowed, his voice shaking before he steadied it. He asked, "Amara, what is this?" Amara lifted a shoulder gracefully. She replied, "You invited me. I came." Zara stepped forward confidently. Zara said, "Hi, Mr. Rowe." Eli stepped beside her, hands in his pockets. Eli added, "Mom said you like big events, so here we are." The whispers grew louder, hotter, like a storm forming inside the hall. Kingston stared at the children. Those familiar cheekbones, that posture, those eyes. He whispered, barely able to breathe. Kingston asked, "Amara, who are these children?" Amara held his gaze, her voice calm and unshaken. She said, "You're past, Kingston." She took one small step closer. "Your truth." Kingston's voice cracked. He asked, "Amara, what did you do?" She leaned in slightly, her smile soft but devastating. She whispered, "I didn't do anything." Then she stood tall. She said clearly, "You did." The room remained frozen as Kingston stared at the twins like they were ghosts. His jaw clenched and something flickered in his eyes. Anger, confusion, fear, guilt, but he swallowed it quickly and straightened, trying to maintain the cold confidence he always wore like armor. Kingston said stiffly, "You can't just walk into my event making declarations, Amara. I don't know those children, and I don't appreciate you using them to create a scene." Amara folded her arms. "A scene? Trust me, darling, if I wanted a scene, you'd need security." A few people in the room choked on their drinks. The whispers spread like wildfire. A woman whispered loudly to her friend, "Is he crazy? They look exactly like him, down to the eyebrows." Her friend replied, "Those are Kingston's eyebrows, and nose, and attitude." Someone else pointed at Eli, who was staring back at Kingston with a glare too old for his face. Another guest whispered, "Oh yes." That one definitely inherited the CEO death stare. Kingston's fiancée Tiana finally snapped out of her shock. She moved to Kingston's side with a glare so sharp it could cut steel. Tiana hissed, "Kingston, what is this?" "What is she talking about?" Kingston muttered. "She's lying." Amara raised an eyebrow. "Lying? About what? The marriage? The betrayal? Being dumped while pregnant with your children?" Tiana's eyes widened. Tiana asked in disbelief, "You were married to her?" Amara replied calmly, "Legally, yes. Emotionally, he left the marriage long before he walked out." Kingston aggressively adjusted his suit jacket. Kingston snapped, "Enough. You will not embarrass me tonight, Amara." Amara smirked, "Oh, sweetheart, I haven't even started." The audience gasped. A soft tug on her sleeve made Amara look down. Zara whispered nervously, "Mummy, should we go? People are staring." Amara knelt slightly and whispered back, "Let them stare. You did nothing wrong." Eli, however, was not nervous. He watched Kingston like a cat studying a snake. Eli muttered, "So that's him. The man," Amara said gently. "Eli, please." "Not tonight." Eli responded quietly, "But he made you cry." The words hit Kingston like a punch to the chest. He visibly tensed. Tiana's eyes darted between Kingston and the children. Tiana asked sharply, "Kingston, answer me right now. Did you or did you not leave this woman while she was pregnant?" Kingston opened his mouth, but Amara cut him off. Amara said, "Don't worry, Tiana. He didn't know I was pregnant." Kingston scoffed. Kingston said, "Here we go. Another lie. You expect me to believe you were pregnant with twins and just didn't say anything?" Amara shrugged. You blocked my number, changed your email, told your assistant to filter me out, filed for divorce and moved to another country. I got the message." The room erupted again with murmurs. A middle-aged man whispered to his wife, "That's corporate-level ghosting." His wife replied, "That's federal ghosting? My God!" Tiana stepped forward, face stern. Tiana said, "You're telling me she was pregnant and you never checked on her." Kingston said defensively, "She was manipulating me. She always wanted to trap me." Amara laughed softly. "Trap you? Kingston, you begged me to marry you. I said no twice. You pushed for it. You introduced me to your family. Do you remember any of that? Or was I manipulating you with mind control?" Kingston opened his mouth, but no excuse came out. He was losing ground, and he knew it. A man approached them now, tall, handsome, older, and radiating wealth. He placed a warm hand on Amara's shoulder. Instantly the whispers turned into full-on gossip fireworks. The man said warmly, "Amara, I've been looking for you everywhere." Kingston's face darkened on instinct. The man smiled politely at the twins. He said gently, "And these must be the little legends I've heard so much about?" Eli crossed his arms. Eli asked suspiciously, "And who are you?" The man answered, "My name is Elijah Cole. I'm your mother's business partner and friend." Kingston's jaw flexed. Elijah Cole. Billionaire investor, owner of the very company Kingston had been desperate to secure funding from. Tiana recognized him and quietly snapped her fan shut. Tiana muttered under her breath, "Oh, this just got worse." Kingston said tensely, "Amara, what is he doing here?" Elijah replied coolly before Amara could speak, "She invited me. Unlike you, she has nothing to hide." The music stopped completely. A waiter froze mid-step, holding a tray of champagne flutes. Kingston said coldly, "This is my event." Elijah shrugged. "And I was invited. Happily, I might add." Zara tugged Amara's sleeve again. Zara whispered, "Mommy, who is he to you?" Amara answered softly, "A friend, sweetheart." Then Elijah leaned down, smiling at the twins. Elijah said kindly, "I brought you two something. Would you like to see it?" Eli narrowed his eyes. Eli said bluntly, "Why? You trying to bribe us?" Amara gasped. Amara said quickly, "Eli, manners." Elijah laughed lightly. No, it's fine. He's honest. I like that." He handed them a small box each. Inside were 2 limited-edition collectible watches for kids. Expensive, elegant, impossible for a normal child to own. The twins gasped. Zara whispered in awe, "It's shiny." Eli asked, "Are these real?" Elijah smiled. "Real and yours?" Kingston felt heat crawl up his neck. He marched closer, lowering his voice sharply. Kingston said angrily, "Stop trying to buy them." Elijah replied calmly, "Buy them. You abandoned them." Kingston almost exploded. Kingston snapped, "They are not my—" But Elijah cut him off smoothly. Elijah said, "DNA tests are simple. One day, less if you have my connections." The entire room inhaled dramatically. Someone whispered, "Oh Lord, Kingston is finished." Someone else whispered, "No, he's cooked, seasoned, served with rice." Amara did nothing. She simply watched Kingston grow redder and redder. He tried one last time to save face. Kingston said, "Amara is playing games. She always did." Elijah replied, "If she's playing games, then you're losing." Zara took Amara's hand shyly. Zara asked, "Mommy, are we going home?" Before Amara could respond, a familiar but unwelcome voice burst through the speakers. Kingston's mother had arrived, and she had heard everything. Mrs. Ward shouted from the entrance, "What do you mean I have grandchildren?" The room erupted again. Kingston closed his eyes in pure agony, and Amara smiled, soft, calm, dangerous, just the way Kingston remembered. Mrs. Ward stormed into the hall like a hurricane wrapped in diamonds. Her heels clicked violently against the marble, and every guest stepped out of her way as if she were royalty in a terrible mood. Kingston stiffened. Amara remained perfectly still, calm, composed, unbothered. The twins stared up at the approaching woman with wide eyes. Mrs. Ward pointed at Kingston and shouted, "Explain yourself this instant." Kingston said tightly, "Mother, lower your voice. This isn't the place." Mrs. Ward cut him off sharply. "No, this is exactly the place. I just heard from 5 different people that you abandoned a pregnant wife and have 2 children you never told me about." Kingston's composure cracked again. Kingston muttered, "Mother, please." Mrs. Ward snapped, "Don't mother me. Is it true?" Do I have grandchildren standing in this room while you parade around with some engagement?" Tiana coughed loudly. Tiana said, "Some engagement? We're getting married." Mrs. Ward turned slowly toward her, eyes cold. Mrs. Ward asked, "And did he tell you he was already married before? Or is that also new information?" Tiana flinched. Kingston stepped in front of her protectively. Kingston said, "Tiana has nothing to do with this." Mrs. Ward's attention shifted sharply to Amara. Mrs. Ward said firmly, "You, young lady, come here." Amara raised an eyebrow. Amara replied, "Ma'am, with all due respect, I'm not a teenager, and I'm not your employee. So no, I won't be coming here. You can walk closer like everyone else." The whole room howled internally. Mrs. Ward blinked once, taken aback. Then she started walking toward Amara with slow, deliberate steps. Eli instinctively moved in front of his mother, hands clenched, stance fierce. Eli said, "Don't talk to my mom like that." Mrs. Ward stopped. The shock that crossed her face was unmistakable. Mrs. Ward whispered, "My God, he has the Ward eyes." Tension crackled like electricity. She knelt slightly, bringing herself to eye level with the twins. Mrs. Ward said softly, "What are your names, babies?" Zara answered first, shy but brave, "I'm Zara." Eli said boldly, "My name is Eli. Don't call me baby." Mrs. Ward's lip trembled, the first sign of emotion she had shown all evening. Mrs. Ward whispered, "You look just like Kingston did when he was small." Eli replied dryly, "Sorry to hear that." Amara almost choked. Elijah Cole coughed into his fist to hide a laugh. Kingston looked like he was about to detonate. Kingston snapped, "Eli, don't speak to her like—" Amara cut in smoothly, "Don't speak to my son like that. You don't get to correct a child you abandoned." Mrs. Ward stood quickly and rounded on Kingston. Mrs. Ward demanded, "So you did abandon them? Are you absolutely out of your mind?" Kingston protested, "I didn't know she was pregnant." "She hid it," Amara replied calmly. "You divorced me through email, Kingston. Email! While you were in Dubai pretending to be stressed from work." Gasps rippled through the hall again. Someone whispered, "Dubai." He was in Dubai crying on Instagram that he was depressed. Someone else whispered, he was depressed from cheating too much. Mrs. Ward pressed a hand to her chest. Mrs. Ward said in disbelief, "You divorced your pregnant wife. Through email." Kingston snapped, "I didn't know she was pregnant." Amara said, "You didn't ask. You just left." Mrs. Ward looked devastated. She turned back to the twins. Mrs. Ward said softly, "I'm your grandmother. I didn't know about you, but if you ever want anything—" Eli stepped back. Eli said, "My mom takes care of us. We don't need anything." Zara squeezed her brother's hand. Zara whispered, "We're okay." Mrs. Ward looked heartbroken, but she nodded respectfully. Elijah stepped forward now, clearing his throat. Elijah said calmly, "This has gone far enough. Kingston, you owe Amara and your children a real conversation, somewhere private." Kingston scoffed. "There's nothing to discuss," Elijah replied. "Then you're even more foolish than I thought." Kingston turned, furious. Kingston said, "You think you can just insert yourself into my personal matters?" Elijah replied coolly, "You invited me the moment you mistreated a woman I value." The entire room froze at the implication. Tiana's hand tightened on Kingston's arm. Tiana whispered harshly, "What is he talking about, Kingston? Why is he protecting her like that? Why does he care?" Amara answered before Kingston could. "Elijah and I run a foundation for single mothers. He's been my investor for 3 years. He helped me get back on my feet after the divorce." Tiana blinked. Tiana said slowly, "So you're close?" Elijah raised an eyebrow. Elijah said, "Close is a polite understatement." The room screamed internally. Kingston's face went red. Kingston growled, "Are you implying?" Elijah interrupted with a low, amused tone, "I'm not implying anything. I'm saying it clearly." "He looked right at Amara," Elijah said with a softness the room had never heard from him. "She's important to me." Amara inhaled sharply. Kingston looked physically rattled. Kingston shouted, You're trying to replace me," Eli muttered. "You weren't even there to be replaced." Tiana rubbed her forehead. Tiana said, "I don't have time for this. Kingston, if you told me the truth from day one, we wouldn't be here. How am I supposed to trust you now?" Kingston replied desperately, "Tiana, please. but Tiana lifted a hand to silence him. Tiana said, "I need space and clarity." Then she turned to Amara. Tiana asked calmly, "Do you have any ill intentions toward me?" Amara shook her head. "None. I didn't come here to ruin your engagement. I came here because Kingston invited me to settle unfinished business," he said. "I just brought my children because I refuse to hide them anymore." Mrs. Ward gasped. Mrs. Ward asked sharply, "You invited her?" Kingston paled. Kingston murmured, "I thought she'd come alone," Amara replied, "and you thought you could humiliate me. Again." She stepped closer to him, her voice low but clear. Amara said, "I'm not the same woman you left behind." Kingston swallowed. Kingston said quietly, "I can see that," Amara answered. "Good, because you can't manipulate me any more." He reached for her arm instinctively, and Elijah stepped between them. Elijah said calmly but firmly, "Don't touch her." Kingston glared at him. Kingston hissed, "You're interfering in something that's not your business." Elijah replied, "It became my business the moment you made her cry." Amara froze. Kingston's jaw clenched in rage. Mrs. Ward sighed deeply, rubbing her temples. Mrs. Ward said tiredly, "This entire night is a disaster. Kingston, you will fix this. Now." But for the first time in his life, Kingston looked genuinely unsure and very, very scared. The event hall had completely lost its celebratory atmosphere. The DJ had quietly turned the music off. The waiters were frozen at their stations, and every guest pretended not to stare while absolutely staring. Amara shifted slightly, pulling the twins closer. Amara said quietly, "We're leaving. Come on, babies." But Elijah gently touched her elbow. Elijah said softly, "You can leave, but let me walk you out." Kingston snapped immediately. "She doesn't need you to walk her anywhere." Elijah raised a brow. "And you think she needs you?" The guests winced at the direct hit. Kingston stepped closer, jaw tight. Kingston said through clenched teeth, "Elijah, stay away from my family." Elijah chuckled. "Slow, low, dangerous." Elijah replied, "Your family. You abandoned them. You forfeited the right to utter that word." Eli tugged on Amara's sleeve, whispering loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. Eli said, "Mom, why does he keep talking like he knows us? He doesn't even know my favorite color." The hall erupted in quiet laughter. Zara nodded seriously. Zara added, "He doesn't even know our birthdays." Mrs. Ward turned sharply toward Kingston. Mrs. Ward asked, horrified, "You don't know their birthdays?" Kingston exhaled sharply. Kingston muttered, "I didn't know they existed." Amara corrected calmly, "You chose not to know." Mrs. Ward pinched the bridge of her nose. Mrs. Ward said, "I raised you better than this, Kingston. Much better." Kingston looked ready to explode. But then Tiana quietly stepped forward, surprising everyone. Her voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. Tiana said, "I think everyone needs to stop. Kingston, what you did was wrong, deeply wrong. But continuing to fight in front of the children won't fix anything." Amara actually agreed with that. Amara said softly, "She's right." Zara tugged her hand again. Zara whispered shakily, "Mommy, I don't like it here. People keep looking at us." Amara replied, "All right, sweetheart. We're leaving now." But just as she started turning away, Kingston shouted, "Wait!" Everyone froze. Amara looked over her shoulder with the calmness of a woman who had already survived the worst part of her life. Amara said, "What now, Kingston?" He swallowed, struggling. Kingston said quietly, I want to talk to them." To the twins. Eli narrowed his eyes. Eli replied bluntly, "No." Kingston flinched. Zara hid behind Amara. Zara whispered, "I don't want to talk to him." Elijah stepped protectively between them. Elijah said, "You heard the children." Kingston's eyes filled with frustration and desperation. Kingston said sharply, "I am their father." Amara cut in immediately. "And you will not weaponize that word tonight." Kingston insisted, "I deserve a chance." Amara's expression hardened. Amara asked quietly, "A chance at what? Repeating the same damage? You want to speak to them now, in front of a crowd. For what? Your ego? Your image? Your investors?" Kingston shook his head quickly. Kingston replied, "No, I just—" His voice broke, just slightly. Kingston whispered, "I didn't know, and I want to try—" Elijah's face remained unreadable. Mrs. Ward took a slow breath. Mrs. Ward said, "Amara, dear, may I speak to my grandchildren, just briefly?" Eli and Zara exchanged a look, their secret twin language. Eli nodded after a moment. Zara nodded too. Amara swallowed and exhaled. Amara said gently, "You can speak to them, but not him." Kingston's eyes widened. Kingston said sharply, "Amara!" Elijah snapped Kingston. "This is not about you." Mrs. Ward knelt down in front of the twins with gentle eyes. Mrs. Ward said softly, "Hello, dears, I'm very sorry for all this shouting. You must be scared." Zara shook her head. Zara whispered, "I'm not scared. I'm just sad." Mrs. Ward's face crumpled. Mrs. Ward whispered, "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry." Eli folded his arms. Eli asked seriously, "Did you know about us?" Mrs. Ward replied immediately, "No. Not for a second. I would never have allowed my son to abandon any child, especially not ones as precious as you." Zara smiled shyly at that. Eli shrugged, pretending not to be affected, but his cheeks flushed. Mrs. Ward reached out, slowly, carefully. Mrs. Ward asked, "May I hug you?" Zara stepped forward first. Eli hesitated, then followed. The hall collectively sighed. Kingston watched the scene, throat tight, guilt suffocating him. But when he tried to move closer, Elijah blocked him again. Elijah said, "Don't. Let them have this moment." Kingston looked like a man trapped in a burning room with no way out. Mrs. Ward pulled back, wiping her eyes. Mrs. Ward said softly to the twins, "If you ever need anything, anything at all, you have my number now." She handed Amara a small card. Then her expression hardened and she turned to Kingston. Mrs. Ward said coldly, "You and I will have words later." Kingston actually stepped backward. Tiana exhaled deeply. Tiana said, "I need time, Kingston. This is too much." Kingston replied desperately, "Tiana, please don't leave." Tiana said, "I'm not leaving. I just need space to think. A lot of it." She turned and walked away, her assistants following her quickly. Kingston watched her go with panic in his eyes. Then he turned back toward Amara, but Amara had already gathered the twins, ready to walk away. Kingston called out softly, "Amara, please." She looked at him, calm, cold, beautiful, stronger than he had ever allowed her to be. Amara said, "You don't get to beg for me now." His face fell. She took a step back, Eli and Zara beside her, Elijah behind them, Mrs. Ward watching with regret, and Kingston, the once untouchable, invincible CEO, stood alone in the middle of a party that was supposed to celebrate his bright new future. A future now dimmed, shaken, falling apart. Amara turned away. The twins followed. Elijah placed a protective hand on her back, and they walked toward the exit, leaving Kingston standing in the wreckage of his own mistakes. Here is Batch E, final 1,000 to 1,200 words. Dramatic, emotional, cinematic, and still in clean script-style narration. This batch brings closure while leaving space for a potential part 2 if you ever want one. The night air outside the event hall was cool and quiet, a harsh contrast to the chaos they had just escaped. Amara held Eli and Zara's hands as they walked down the steps. The twins stayed close, their energy subdued but safe. Elijah followed a step behind, watchful. Elijah said softly, "You handled that with so much strength, Amara. More than most people would have." Amara gave a tired smile. "I didn't feel strong. I just felt done." Eli muttered, "Mom, you were like a superhero in there." Zara nodded proudly. "Yeah, you made him look silly." Amara laughed under her breath. Amara said, "I wasn't trying to make anyone look silly. I just wanted the truth out." Elijah stepped up beside her. Elijah said quietly, "And you finally got your closure." Amara didn't answer. The silence said everything. But just as they reached the car, a voice called out behind them. Kingston shouted desperately, "Amara! Amara, please wait!" Amara stiffened. Eli groaned. Zara hid behind her leg. Elijah turned around slowly. Kingston jogged toward them. No security, no arrogance, just a messy, broken man. He stopped a few feet away, chest rising and falling. Kingston said quietly, "I'm not here to fight." Elijah replied, "Then say what you need to say from there." Kingston nodded gratefully. He looked at the twins first, but they both looked away. That stabbed all the way into his chest. Kingston said softly, "I know today was the worst way for them to meet me. I know that. They didn't deserve that. And neither did you." Amara didn't speak. Kingston swallowed hard. Kingston continued, "I can't change what I did, or how I did it. I can't undo the years I missed, but I want—" Eli cut in sharply, "We don't want anything from you." Kingston flinched like a child struck. Zara said quietly, "We have Mommy." Kingston nodded slowly. Kingston whispered, "I know, she's better than I ever deserved." Elijah's jaw tightened, but he didn't interfere. Kingston looked at Amara now. Directly, for the first time that night, his eyes held something painfully real. Kingston said, "I know sorry isn't enough. It probably means nothing to you. But I am sorry, truly." Amara inhaled sharply. Amara asked quietly, "Why did you divorce me, Kingston? What did I do to you?" He closed his eyes. Kingston whispered, "You didn't do anything. I got scared." Amara frowned. "Scared of what?" His voice broke. Kingston said, "Loving you, and losing control of myself, and becoming my father." Amara froze. Eli's glare softened slightly. Zara peeked out from behind her. Amara said hesitantly, "I didn't know your father frightened you." Kingston replied, "I never told you. I should have. You deserved the truth, but instead I pushed you away. I ran, and then when the divorce was done, pride kept me from turning back." He ran a hand through his hair. Kingston continued softly, "And now I see the cost of that pride." He looked at the twins again. Kingston asked gently, Can I just say one thing to them? One sentence, and then I'll go." Elijah looked at Amara. Amara looked at the twins. Eli crossed his arms. Eli asked, "One sentence, that's it." Kingston nodded quickly. Eli gave a cautious shrug. Eli said, "Fine, one sentence." Kingston took a shaky breath, looked at both of them with eyes full of regret. Kingston said softly, "I'm sorry I wasn't there for you, but I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of knowing you." Zara blinked. Eli's jaw clenched. Amara's eyes softened just a fraction. But Kingston didn't push it further. He stepped back. Kingston said to Amara, "I'll respect whatever boundaries you set. I won't show up unannounced. I won't drag lawyers into this. I just want a chance someday, whenever you're ready." Amara nodded once. Not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. Kingston turned to leave, shoulders heavy, but Mrs. Ward appeared behind him, breathless from rushing. She grabbed Kingston's arm. Mrs. Ward said, "That's enough for today, let's go." Then she turned to Amara. Mrs. Ward said earnestly, "Thank you for letting me meet them. I hope one day they'll let me be their grandmother." Zara smiled shyly. Zara whispered, "You can, if Mommy says yes." Mrs. Ward's eyes filled with tears. Mrs. Ward whispered back, "Then I will wait." She guided Kingston away, her arm around him, scolding him softly as they walked. Elijah let out a slow breath. Elijah said, "That was heavy." Amara replied, "That was necessary." The twins tugged on her hands. Eli said, "Mom, can we go home now?" Zara added, "And eat jollof rice." Elijah chuckled. Elijah said, "I'll drive." Amara gave him a grateful look. Amara said softly, "Thank you for everything tonight." Elijah's eyes warmed. Elijah replied, "I'll always show up for you and them. That's not going to change." Amara's breath caught slightly. But before the moment grew too heavy, Zara suddenly grabbed Elijah's leg. Zara asked brightly, "Mr. Elijah, can you be our uncle?" Elijah froze. Then he laughed, bending down. Elijah said, "If your mom allows it, I would be honored." Eli nodded thoughtfully. Eli said, "You'd be a good uncle. Better than that other guy." Amara shot him a look. Amara said, "Eli." Eli said defensively, "What?" "I'm telling the truth." Elijah smiled. Elijah said quietly to Amara, "He's honest. Just like you." They reached the car. Elijah opened the back door for the twins and helped them in. Amara stood beside him, suddenly aware of how close they were. Amara said softly, "You really didn't have to defend me like that inside." Elijah replied simply, "Yes, I did." She blinked. Elijah continued, "You deserve someone who stands beside you, not someone who abandons you." Amara looked at him, really looked at him. Elijah wasn't Kingston. He wasn't a replacement. He wasn't a rescue mission. He was a choice. A good one. Amara whispered, "Thank you." Elijah smiled, the gentle kind. Elijah said, "You don't have to thank me. You just have to let yourself breathe again." Amara inhaled slowly. Amara said, "I think. After tonight, I can." They got into the car. Elijah started the engine. Eli leaned forward from the back seat. Eli announced, "Mom, when we get home, I'm writing in my diary that today we saw Karma." Zara giggled. Zara added, "And Mommy was the superhero of the story." Amara laughed softly, a sound she hadn't made in a long, long time. She looked out the window as they drove away. The night was calm. Her heart wasn't heavy anymore. For the first time since Kingston left her, she felt free. If you've made it to the end of this story, thank you for staying with us through every twist and revelation. This tale of betrayal, redemption, and the true meaning of family shows us that biology doesn't make a parent. Love does. What would you have done in Amelia's situation? Would you have agreed to help your sister from the beginning, or would you have refused? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart or kept you on the edge of your seat, please hit that like button and subscribe for more dramatic stories that explore the complexities of human relationships. Your support helps us bring you more content like this, and your comments and discussions make our community stronger. Thank you for watching, and remember that sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in the most unexpected and painful packages. See you in the next story. If you've made it to the end of this story, thank you for staying with us through every twist and revelation. This tale of redemption and the true meaning of family shows us that biology doesn't make a parent. Love does. What would you have done in Amara's situation? Would you have forgiven Kingston for what he did, or would you have refused? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if this story touched your heart or kept you on the edge of your seat, please hit that like button and subscribe for more dramatic stories that explore the complexities of human relationships. Your support helps us bring you more content like this, and your comments and discussions make our community stronger. Thank you for watching. And remember that sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in the most unexpected and painful packages. See you in the next story.